Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Real Horsemanship. I'm Luke Brown, and today is a wonderful, beautiful day. It's Thankful Thursday, and this morning my mind and heart have been up in Colorado, and I'm working down here on the horses in Arizona, but I've been thinking a lot about Colorado and about my family up in Colorado, and that's something that has to do with Thankful Thursday and what I'm going to talk about today. Before I mention that, the horse I'm riding again is Duke, and I know I've had Duke probably the last 3 days that we've been doing these Facebook or these videos, but he's just the first horse that I've been working with in the mornings, and he's doing really well. Now this morning Duke had a couple of issues. One was we came across a steer and a larger black steer and two smaller red steers, and he spooked to those. He kind of bolted a little bit, and I did a one rein stop and then worked with him for 5 to 10 minutes around those steers until he eventually calmed down to him. And I even had the steers came up, and one of the steers reached his head through the fence and was actually licking him. So he's doing much better with those steers. He's just a young horse, 4-year-old, and he's not used to a lot of stuff out here. And there, every once in a while, there are things that that spook him, and I have to help him through that. And the second thing that happened this morning is there were a bunch of boulders, kind of bigger, odd-looking boulders, and they had a sign in the middle of them, and he just didn't like that. So I helped him through that, and he kind of bolted a little bit from those boulders, and so I moved his feet right to left until he got close to him, and then let him relax and just stand there, and he just totally melted and relaxed around those boulders. So that's how I help these horses. I get them to the point where there are not too many things that scare them, and if there is something that scares them, it's really easy to manage that. Excuse me. And anyway, just having lots of fun out here at Real Horsemanship. And today for Thankful Thursday, I wanted to talk about the fact that I'm so thankful to have grown up with two parents that did whatever it took. And I grew up on a ranch up in Colorado. It's a sheep and cattle ranch up there. Now, most of what we raised was sheep, but we had 100 cows or so most of my life. And that's where I learned to ride horses. I learned to train horses and mules up there in Colorado, and that's where I got my start, was being able to was living on the ranch. And one of the things that I'm so thankful for this morning, and I've been thinking about it for the last hour. The reason it came to my mind about how thankful I am for my parents and for growing up on the ranch is because of the cooler weather right now. There's a cooler weather, and it's just beautiful down here in Arizona. However, up in Colorado, up in the mountains, they're actually getting snow. And the sheep are way up there, probably around 11,000 feet up in the Rockies. And there's two big bunches of sheep, and they have herders that are taking care of them. They live out of canvas tents. They have wood stoves. And it can get really cold up there and really uncomfortable. And I was I contacted my dad yesterday, and I let him know that I could help in any way possible if they were having trouble and they needed help. But that is one very, very, very tough man. His name is J. Paul Brown, and he's done many, many things in his life. And one of his greatest accomplishments is I'm going to get a little emotional here. The great father and the great example that he is, and the great mother that my mom is, and the great example that she is. There are so many instances. I could tell you hundreds and hundreds of stories of things that happened up on the ranch when I was growing up, and even after I grew up and moved away, or when I came back to help them, or when we were in business together. There are hard things that happen in life, and ranching is one of those things that people do, that there is no can't, there is no not try in ranching. You have to try. You have to get up. You have to work no matter what. There are no sick days. There's no calling off. If your herder quits and leaves, you have to find another herder, or the sheep are going to get scattered and gonna get eaten by predators, and you're gonna lose them, and you're gonna lose your business. You have to find a herder no matter what, or herd them yourself. My mom, when she was younger, had to herd the sheep while when a herder ran off, she had to herd the sheep while my dad went and searched for another herder. My youngest brother herded the sheep when we lost our herder one time. We thought the herder was dead, but he ended up just taking off and going back to New Mexico. But there are so many instances, and I want to tell you a little story. Like I said, there are hundreds of stories of what it takes to be a rancher, and what I've learned, and what I'm thankful for, and how it's helped me in my life. And that is just doing the hard things no matter what. And the story I wanted to tell you this morning is about, I was probably 4 or 5 years old. Can't remember exactly how old I was, but I know my youngest brother was just a baby. He was I think younger than one, and my dad was riding a horse. It was just before lambing time. Now, lambing time is the most important time of the year. That's when all the sheep have their babies, and that always happens in May of every year, starting around May 1st of every year. Well, my dad was riding a horse. His name was Lefty, and Lefty was a younger, big, muscly bay quarter horse, and Lefty kind of had a problem with bucking, and my dad could ride anything. He rode bulls growing up. He rode bulls in high school and in college, and broncs, and he wasn't afraid of any horse. And so he was riding this horse, Lefty. Well, Lefty took him for a ride and went to bucking down on the ranch in some sagebrush, and he bucked so hard that my dad ended up coming off the saddle. And then he came down, and if I can put it gently, he came down on his nethers and really injured. Whew. I don't know, I'm having a hard time. I apologize. I knew I'd be emotional talking about this because I felt emotional all morning about how thankful I am. So my dad came down and injured himself in what I would call his nethers, and he ended up coming off the horse, but he got back on the horse, Lefty, and he rode Lefty all the way back home. Well, he was injured so badly that he was laid up in bed for a couple days, and then lambing time started. Now, he didn't have an option. He felt like he had to do whatever it took to get lambing time done and help those ewes have their baby lambs. And so the thing that stuck out in my mind is when I was told this story as I got older, is my dad we have large lambing corrals, and there are 20 pins on each side, so there are 40 pins total, and outside of those pins, that's where all the sheep start. And then outside of those pins are what we call jugs. They're smaller, like 4x4 jugs, little pins, where if a ewe has a baby, if they have lambs, then we put them in there and we monitor them, feed them and water them and monitor them for about 24 hours before we send them out to larger pastures. Well, there are ewes that have what we call big tits, and so if a ewe has an udder on one side that the nipple gets too big, the lamb can't stick his mouth over the nipple, and so it's my dad is taking it upon himself to help lambs suck, and if you don't help those lambs suck those nipples, if you don't milk them out and then help those lambs suck those nipples, the lambs will literally starve to death. You turn them out, and within a day they'll be dead. And so there are hundreds of ewes like this, and he's gotten to the point where there are not too many in the herd anymore, but there used to be a lot, especially when we were younger. My dad was younger. Now, he's much younger than me at this time, but this goes to show the tenacity and the grit that my dad has. Good morning. So he would get inside these jugs, these 4x4 pins, and he would somehow crawl over it. They're about 3 feet tall, and he would somehow crawl over them with his nethers as injured as they were. But he was so swollen, he couldn't kneel he normally would kneel down, and sitting on his heels and kneeling down, he would help the lamb suck those nipples. But in this case, he couldn't do that because he was so swollen and injured. And so he would turn around, lay on his back. I'm gonna turn the other direction. He would lay on his back and help those baby lambs. He would help those baby lambs suck, and he would get those big tits down. He would help them get to a normal size and help those lambs. Excuse me. He would help them survive. He could barely walk. He couldn't kneel, but he would lay on his back and help those lambs. I have hundreds and hundreds of stories like that. And I am so thankful to have grown up on a ranch like I did, a sheep ranch, and with parents who would literally do whatever it took to raise us right and to make sure that those sheep were taken care of and that our business thrived. That's probably the greatest gift that I've been given in my life. Thanks for sitting through my emotions today. Sometimes I wear them on my sleeves. My parents and the ranch life that I grew up on, they make all the difference in my life. And I want to do that for other people. It is my passion and my goal to help others learn to do whatever it takes and to find success and true fulfillment and happiness in their life. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. Make sure to always be thankful and live with purpose, live with passion, and as always, stay safe in the saddle.